The start of the Sixers season has gone from bad to worse. The Philadelphia 76ers have now lost another game at the hands of the lowly Detroit Pistons, with a familiar face at the forefront of the loss in Tobias Harris there. I want to reflect on what exactly is going wrong with this Sixers team and how they can solve these issues that they have across the board. Lifeless effort, not enough stable offense, defensive assignments being missed, backdoor cuts not being followed, everything that is going wrong with this team. So I'm going to get into it with my guy Ryan Coyle here, who will be joining the channel right here on Sixers Digest, as well as Phillies Digest a little bit moving forward. So excited to have him on board. And Ryan, I apologize that I have to introduce you after such an unfortunate loss, but opening takeaways from that, loss of the hands of the Pistons. What you got for me?
I'd say don't panic yet. I think this is a roster that is built around three players in Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, and it's hard to judge the product of that roster when two of those three guys are out. I think the big thing, and it goes back to Tobias Harris from last year, but it was Tobias Harris took up such a large chunk of the salary cap and the money. You basically kind of swapped him out with Paul George, kind of rebuilt the bench around these three guys. You can't judge the team in a total capacity yet. And while I agree they should put up a better effort against the Detroit Pistons, Tyrese Maxey, now a max player, needs to perform better than that and
Yeah.
carry his team to a win in games like these, kind of like he did against the Pacers on Sunday. But to not show up against the Pistons is inexcusable. But at the same time, it's not even November yet. Two of your three best players and one of the top five players in the league isn't playing yet. You can't totally judge the Sixers team yet. There's still plenty of time in the season, and you just got to knock on wood and hope the health and the knees of this team come back to life a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're having a nice level head on your shoulders for the conversation here. I guess I'll just say what particularly rubs me the wrong way about this Sixers team, and particularly tonight, is there's this like vibe of arrogance that they tend to carry with of just because we're the most talented team, we're going to win. It happened against the Raptors that they lost that game, which was incredibly frustrating. And then even at shoot around today, Kelly Oubre speaking about how they can't take a team for granted, that they have to show up every single night. Well, guess what you guys just did is sleepwalk through the game and then were punished for it. And then when you look down this roster, Caleb Martin, 7 points, 2 for 10 from the field. Andre Drummond, not good enough. Kelly Oubre, 5 for 14 from the field, not good enough. Like, there's just not enough ways for this team to have offense. And I hear you on Tyrese Maxey with the max contract situation. But what I also will push back for on that is he's the only guy on this team that can create whatsoever. Shout out to Jared McCain for a little bit of a spark off the bench. But really, the entire offense right now is Tyrese Maxey. Go figure it out there, which I think is also an indictment on Nick Nurse.
Yeah, the if Nick Nurse is quote unquote one of the five best coaches in the NBA,
Not looking
these
like
are
it.
yeah, these are certainly one of the games that you pay him the money that you pay him for. Um, it, Coaches say it all the time, and it's a cliche, but they tend to say it more when they're having success. But it's like a coach is only as good as his players, and you can definitely say that, especially in a league where it's about stars, and two of your three stars are out. But in situations like this, is where the coach kind of elevates the group, elevates the players around him, goes into different circumstances with adversity and overcomes it. And it's you're playing the Pistons at home. You're
Right.
not at the Thunder. You're not at the Mavericks. You're not at the Celtics. This is a game that they should win. They're a 3.5 point favorite, even without their two key players. And you knew they wouldn't be playing. And for them to still go out there and lay an egg, it's definitely disappointing. But I'm not fully hitting the panic button yet. I think, especially if Georgia and Embiid are going to miss some more time, I think you got to give this group kind of 10 to 15 games to figure itself out before you really start to panic a little bit.
Yeah, I think that is a good outlook here. I do want to reflect on the Tobias Harris side of things for this. For starters, I mean, it's been a rocky tenure for Tobias Harris. It feels like decades that we've watched this man play basketball, despite it only being 5.5 years here. I didn't realize that I still had the burning hatred for Tobias Harris until I watched him on the floor tonight. Now, there's a couple reasons why. For starters, I do want to give him his respect. That I do appreciate the way that Tobias handled himself throughout the entirety of his tenure. And for what it's worth, the biggest issue here is not Tobias. It was for the Sixers for giving him the contract. That he did not offer himself that money. It was the Sixers that put it in front of him. He just signed on the dotted line. Now, Tobias was asked about things, and for starters, finished with 14 rebounds tonight. Did not do that since 2023 in a Sixers uniform. He only did that 5 times in his entire Sixers tenure, but he did do that tonight. Now, Tobias was asked a little bit about this reunion leading into the game, and I thought he did have a nice quote here. So to pull up exactly what he said, he was asked, he said, quote, not many people know this, but as a player and as a person in this generation, when I was a kid, I used to play AAU. If something didn't work, I would jump to the next team, things of that nature. Find a way to move out. It was the first thing in my life that I saw through the 5 years here. And I do think that there's tremendous growth in that. And it is in weathering the storm and finding ways to come through and out of it in some type of fashion and really battle through it. It was an experience I wouldn't change. Obviously, it didn't work out the way that I personally wanted, or the way that the organization wanted it to work out, because we didn't reach the goal of a championship. But the experiences and lessons along the way are ones that I would never change for anything. Again, he is a good dude. It's hard to fully rain on him, but the fact of the matter is that he was given a contract that his talents were never able to live up to. So we saw him get booed from the opening intros, and every single time that he touched the basketball. What was your reaction to that, Ryan? And now that the Tobias era is closed.
Yeah, I think you said it best. Where all right, you're gonna give me $180 million, and I know I'm not worth that. Sure as hell, I'm gonna go jump at that, and sign it as quick as I can. And it was always kind of used against him. And as a team building perspective, obviously it wasn't the right move. He never lived up to the contract. But I do think you can kind of point to him and say he did play hard. He did really kind of give it us all, and I think he was kind of liked in the locker room as well. I've never really heard anyone say a bad like personal thing about Tobias Harris, other than he's not that great at basketball. But I am a little bit worried though, Sean, because I feel like I'm the ultimate pessimist when it comes to the Sixers, and you're the ultimate optimist. And we're kind of playing the reverse role right now. So I'm starting to get worried that they're breaking you, and I'm kind of taking my foot off the gas a little bit in terms of being like, when are you ever going to figure out to like, all right, I'm not going to put myself in position to get overwhelmed, especially this early in the year. If they looked like this and all their guys were playing, I would have a different mindset. But I'm a little scared seeing you this kind of fed up with the Sixers this early into the season. But I guess that's what Tobias Harris does to you.
Yeah, and it is. And especially a stat like this, that a fun fact is that Tobias Harris has been on the Pistons the last two times that they won in Philadelphia, happening 7 years apart here. Tobias Harris is absolutely breaking me. This team is absolutely breaking me right now. And to get into that a little bit more, I just question what can change until these guys get healthy. That I understand the concept is that when Paul George was brought to this organization, that you can win games when it is Paul George and Tyrese Maxey on the floor. Maybe starting Saturday, that's how things go down and everything fits into place a little more. But I thought a guy like Caleb Martin would be able to scale up in his role in a way that he just hasn't been able to. Had 7 points tonight on 2 of 10 shooting. That's not going to cut it. Kelly Oubre, we're seeing the limitations. I'm hating the way that he's just doing too much at times. And like, I don't necessarily want to come too hard on Kelly Oubre for this, because the fact of the matter is there's not a better alternative, that this is what they have. I do think Nick Nurse deserves a lot of criticism for not having this team prepped the way that they should be, because if this grand plan is for Joel Embiid to miss time, then you should have a grand plan for what the offense should look like without him, if you knew that was going to be the case. So I guess, if you're assigning the blame pie for the start of the season, who are you giving the biggest slice to with injuries excluded from the conversation?
It's really hard to point a massive finger in this, because I think when you look at the team, the roster was built around three guys and their roles. Like in a perfect world, you're not asking Caleb Martin and Kelly Oubre to shoot at double digit times.
Sure.
I think that's the thing. Like though that's not what those guys were brought here to do. And I think maybe Kelly Oubre wouldn't admit it, but I think Caleb Martin would at least admit it. He's like, I'm going to go shoot 6 or 7 times. So I'm going to rebound and I'm going to defend. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm asked to do. And even that's kind of what he was paid to do. Like he didn't really have that big of a market out there, and it seems like he kind of settled for a deal to come here. So I think it's really hard to point a massive blame at anyone, but I guess you could start up top with Nick Nurse in these situations. I said it earlier, but coaches say that they're only as good as their players. All right, but in these kind of circumstances, you have to elevate what's around you. I was saying a little bit earlier to you off air that like defense, I think, is something that's going to have to be kind of a calling card of this team until they get their scoring back. And holding Detroit to 105 isn't bad for today's NBA, but I think you're gonna have to win games between like 110 and 100. It's not a team that I think right now is built to kind of play in the high scoring affair. You're gonna have to do everything you can on the defensive end and rebounding it, and they kind of struggled in that department again tonight. So I think cleaning up their act on the defensive end and rebounding until they're able to get two guys that are 25 plus potential point per game scorers and Embiid and George back in the lineup, and less relying on a guy like Caleb Martin, less relying on a guy like Kelly Oubre, even Jared McCain tonight. In a perfect world, I don't think he's playing 20 to 25 minutes for you on a deep rotation Sixer squad that we expected. But for him to go out there and be one of your leading scorers tonight as well, I don't think is encouraging from what the Sixers were expecting coming into the season from the entire team. But a long term outlook, it looks good for McCain there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I get we're still just 4 games into this season. That this is not time to fully be, getting rid of those parade plans that we all hopefully have at the end of the season. And it's not going to make sense until this roster completely puts itself together. But I will just say once again that I am woefully underimpressed by how prepared this team looks. That I do think that it doesn't seem to be a concrete game plan or structure on either side of the ball. Defensively, I think they've been sloppy, missing rotations. There's a whole lot of like philosophical basketball being played as far as they're not executing on what is being asked of them. And I don't even know if it is an execution thing. Maybe it is that there just isn't a plan. The offense looks like Tyrese Maxey go figure it out every single night, and you're just not going to win a lot of games like that. So hopefully health fixes all those issues, but there's more going wrong than right with this Sixers team right now, and this is not at all the start of the season that we hoped. So we'll leave it with you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I want to hear from you. What is your number one issue with the Sixers team right now? Let them rip in the comments. Say what's up to Ryan and welcome to the channel. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Drop a like on this video, and we'll talk with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.